Good morning, my name is Georgina Smith. I'm the Communications Specialist for CIAT in Africa, based in Nairobi. We're at the 7th Africa Agriculture Science Week here in Kigali in Rwanda. I'm joined by Rolf Summer, who is our soil specialist. Good morning, Rolf.
Good morning.
Can you introduce yourself? Just tell us a bit about your role and why you're here.
Yeah, I'm soil scientist at CIAT, that's the International Center for Tropical Agriculture. I'm based in Nairobi, working mostly on soil fertility related issues, climate change, sustainable intensification of production systems, ecosystems, landscapes, linking scales, linking point scale to farm scale. That's basically. And I'm here. You ask why I'm here?
Yes, your participation.
Well, of course, FARA is a great. It's the first time I'm at the FARA meeting, even though that's already the 7th one. But it's a great place to meet people. We have more than 700 people here, probably, and just to catch up with people, networking, listening to what are the latest issues, and that's. And then, of course, there are these side events where we can present a little bit of what we are doing, what we are working on, some of the tiny little things.
So yesterday you had a side event. What did you present in that side event and how did it go? I can hold on to it.
Yeah, the side event was organized by a colleague of mine. It was about the game-changing technologies, or technologies that could change the livelihood of farmers. It was a bit techy in a way that, on the one hand, we introduced a little computerized platform to assess irrigation requirements and how often a farmer could irrigate, which was about improving water use, so producing more crops with less water, which is quite a relevant topic, especially for Rwanda, as the Rwandan government is investing heavily in irrigation. But I personally introduced a little web-based application that calculates soil organic carbon sequestration amounts based on a few input parameters. So it's a tiny little tool that we've developed some time back.
And it allows a user to be able to calculate the amount of carbon that could be stored in the soil. Is that right?
Yes and no. I mean, it's not a crystal ball. It's not giving you insights into the future that we don't know yet, but it's more a calculation tool that takes into account the dynamics of carbon sequestration as such. I mean, this is soil organic carbon stored in soils, which is a dynamic process as such. It's a biological process, and which is not continuing with sort of fixed rates. It's a dynamic process. That's one thing, and then it combines this dynamic process with the process of adoption of a certain technology that could be used to sequester carbon in soils. So combining these two dynamics and then telling people something about, okay, what is the annual sequestration rate and what would be the total anticipated sequestration?
Okay, so one of the themes at the conference is on trends in African agriculture, mega trends in African agriculture. And a conversation that's happening globally at the moment is how can we store more carbon in the soil? Is it possible to store more carbon in the soil? And this is an area that you're involved in quite a lot with your research. So can you talk to us about that, about whether it is realistic to do that?
First of all, yes, we can store carbon in soil, and we have a lot of examples documented in various countries that this is possible. In the particular case of the smallholder systems in tropical Africa, I would personally say the issue is a bit more complicated because often the production system as such is not very intensified. So we have only a limited amount of biomass produced, and then there's a competition for organic matter, because carbon sequestration can only happen if you put organic matter into the soil. You need to put more into the soil than is decomposed, so that you have a net benefit. And this is often difficult in smallholder systems that are so constrained in many ways. But it's nevertheless, I think it's possible. We only need to go back to the drawing board and come up with smart solutions. Something beyond what we've been doing so far. I mean, the focus so far in smallholder agriculture and the science was always about soil fertility, improving productivity. But if you add now the carbon question, soil organic carbon question, we would need to redesign some of the systems. But I think it's possible. We can do this.
Can you give us an example of what that would look like on farm? An example of something that farmers could do to be able to improve the amount of carbon that's stored in the soil?
Yeah, usually, I mean, what people know the best are mostly conservation agriculture, which is a principle that, as the name implies, it's about conserving the resource basis soils, and that is about minimizing tillage, having surface residue cover, or having the soil covered as much as possible, so no periods in between of bare soil, and then smart rotations, intercropping, and then there's also a little bit about intensification, use of inputs, use of improved seeds. That would be one thing. Conservation agriculture has been proven to help sequestering carbon in soils, even though our own research now at CIAT shows it's the amounts in the humid tropics with high temperatures, high rainfall, the amounts that can be sequestered are rather small. And the other one is what CIAT TSBF formerly has been working on for some decades now, is the integrated soil fertility management, which is also about bringing organic matter into the soil. But I'm a bit skeptical. I think as long as we, as ISFM, Integrated Soil Fertility Management, promotes heavy tillage and is not moving towards reducing tillage, working the soil, then I'm skeptical that ISFM can be a technology for carbon sequestration in soils.
So realistically, how much carbon could be stored in the soil? Do we know?
Yeah, we know the range. I mean, this goes from as little as 100 kilos per hectare and year to as much as 2, 3, 4 tons of carbon per year, which means sometimes difficult to grasp the magnitudes, but 4 tons is quite a bit. I mean, imagine 4 tons of carbon in terms of charcoals piled up somewhere. That's quite an amount. But the latter is often in systems, perennial systems with grasses that are remaining in the system for some years and are well maintained. Then we can see these high sequestration rate. But in annual-based, let's say maize-based cropping systems, we don't find these high sequestration amounts.
So in your research, what do you need to do to give more information to farmers about how to store more carbon in their soil? Or what is the aim of your research towards?
Well, my aim right now is we need to go back, as I said, to the drawing board and design systems that are including both production, food security, sustainability, but also the carbon, soil organic carbon sequestration component. And that would, for example, include can we move into double cropping, relay cropping, which means away from monocropping? Can we move into systems that provide the soil coverage, as I talked about it, green manure cover crops, some things that can be integrated in the smallholder systems without too much hassle. It's also this competition always, as I said. Resource-constrained smallholders are not very willing to leave residues in the field if they have livestock to feed. So we need to work more on these gaps in our approaches and the farmers' realities.
So finding technologies that they can use on their farm, finding methods of farming that they can use, which also store carbon.
Yeah, that are attractive. Huh? We definitely, and that's one of the things that we've always been doing in our team. We cannot only do biophysical chemical soil science, we also need to include the social realities, of farm households, the constraints, the trade-offs. And I think that's what we are doing at CIAT.
And options that help farmers make money at the same time.
Yes, exactly. No, sure. If you promote a technology where the farmer has to pay for it, and that's something which we've discussed yesterday in our side event. If the carbon sequestration costs money, if the farmer has to pay for sequestering carbon in the soil, it won't happen unless somebody payment for environmental service. Somebody goes forward and says, okay, the farmer helps mitigating climate change. That's something we are all interested in, so we are paying the farmer to do so. And that's certainly an entry point. And right now the time is ripe. I mean, we have the Green Climate Fund. We have these big initiatives where a lot of money is potentially available to implement such payment for environment services schemes. So I think it's a good timing right now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.